Teacher Talking Sports, what it does, what it do, how we live. And let's continue my series where I attempt to name the best player in each NFL franchise's team history, their all-time GOAT. I've been doing the teams in alphabetical order, and today's team is the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars' inaugural season was 1995, so they have a 30-year history in the NFL. Now, I've 2 off seasons ago, I did my NFL Mount Rushmores by teams, 4 best players in each NFL team's history. Last offseason, I did my NFL Mount Rushmores by position, 4 best players at each position in NFL history. So with each of these videos, I've been revisiting my Mount Rushmores, seeing if I would change anything in the 2 years that have passed before I get into my GOAT. So in alphabetical order, for the Jaguars, I included Tony Boselli. Boselli was inducted into Hall of Fame in 2022. Maurice Jones-Drew, MJD, rushed for 8,071 yards and 68 touchdowns in 8 seasons with the Jaguars. Jimmy Smith, under the radar, great career. 9 seasons altogether with over 1,000 receiving yards. And Fred Taylor, the all-time franchise leader in rushing yards. I don't think there's anything I would change regarding that. At the end of all these videos, I also take a look at the active roster and say, guys who potentially could be on here. But anyhow, some of the honorable mentions I had included were Mark Brunell, Marcus Stroud, Jalen Ramsey, John Henderson, Keenan McCardell, Brad Meester, Rashean Mathis, Tony Brackens, Calais Campbell, and Kevin Hardy, to name a few. But in the 30-year history of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who do I consider to be the GOAT? And let me say, this was a hard one. Just like the Panthers, who came out the same year as the Jaguars. And just like the Panthers, I really struggled between 3 guys. In the end, I went with Fred Taylor. Taylor was the 9th overall pick out of Florida by the Jaguars in the 1998 NFL Draft. Taylor played 13 seasons in the NFL, the first 11 with the Jacksonville Jaguars from 1998 to 2008. Finished as 3rd in Offensive Rookie of the Year voting, had a 2nd All-Pro second team in 2007. Anyhow, if we look at his season-by-season numbers, and one of the weirdest things, you take a look. Taylor had 7 seasons with at least 1,000 yards rushing, yet he was only named to the Pro Bowl once in 2007. Look at 2000. In 13 games, 1,399 yards, 12 touchdowns, led the league in yards per game, rushing yards per game, not named to the Pro Bowl. 2003, 1,572 rushing yards and 48 catches, not named to the Pro Bowl. Just very odd. But altogether, in his 11 seasons with the Jaguars, 11,271 rushing yards, 62 rushing touchdowns, while adding 286 catches for 2,361 yards and 8 touchdowns. Taylor averaged 4.6 yards per carry with the Jaguars, and back-to-back seasons averaged at least 5, 2006 5, and 2007 5.4. Never averaged less than 3.9 in a season, so, consistently was getting at least 4 yards a pop. He had 2 seasons where he reached double-digit rushing touchdowns. Altogether played 140 games with the team, averaging 80 and a half yards rushing, as well as 16.9 yards receiving per game. So just shy of 100 yards from scrimmage per game for his career. Produced in the playoffs as well. Played in 7 playoff games for the Jaguars. 612 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, while also adding a receiving score in his postseason career. Well, he did play 2 seasons at the end of his career with the Patriots. All-time, Taylor is 17th with his 11,695 rushing yards. Also 35th all time, let's say, in yards from scrimmage, 14,079. My GOAT in Jacksonville Jaguars history, Fred Taylor. As I mentioned, this was hard. I really was struggling between three players, and I fully would understand if you included the other two. One of those, Tony Boselli, the only of these Mount Rushmore guys I had that is in the Hall of Fame. It was a long wait. 21 years after he last played in the NFL, finally was inducted. Um, I just had to go. I went Taylor over him due to, in large part, just a longer, lengthier time. Um, Taylor played 136 games with the Jaguars. Boselli 91. So well over 40 more games from Taylor. But he was one of the best left tackles. And then Jimmy Smith, as I mentioned, 1,000 yard seasons, 7 in a row from 1996 to 2002. Man, I struggle not putting Jimmy Smith on. This was just as challenging as the Panthers, where I was really suffering, pretty much trying to decide between Luke Kuechly, Steve Smith, and Julius Peppers. But anyhow, let me know in the comments who you believe is the best player of all time. As I mentioned, I take a look at the current roster. Do I believe anyone active can potentially eventually get on the Mount Rushmore or overtake Fred Taylor as the GOAT? First guy comes to mind, Trevor Lawrence, the first overall pick, has played 3 seasons in the NFL. Problem is, he almost seemed to regress a little bit last season from 2022. Trayvon Walker, the first overall pick in 2022. He has 13 and a half sacks over 2 seasons, 10 last season. I don't anticipate them being seen as the GOAT, but if Trevor Lawrence could reach the ceiling many thought he would, then he definitely has an opportunity. Otherwise, I don't really see anyone that I believe can be seen as an all-time Jaguar great. But anyhow, tomorrow I'll be doing the Kansas City Chiefs, and let's just say I'm going to make a huge change to the Mount Rushmore that I did 2 off seasons ago. Anyhow, don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. Like the video, share the video, hit the bell for notifications. I'm out.